124, yeah.
Like exercise 24 maybe?
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, have you got a 124? Yeah. Yep. This is what kind of upsets me about Ottman is that they'll just change the number by 1.
And then make a new edition.
A new edition.
And that's another $100, please.
Yes. All right, this starts on beat 2. So technically the downbeat is the upbeat, if that makes any sense. The preparation beat is the downbeat. So I'll count to 4, then we'll give the prep 2, 3, and 1 and 2. Rest, rest, rest. 2, 3, and 1 and 2. Rest, rest. 1, 2, and 3, 4. Something like that. Y'all can define the way you actually want to do it with your classes, but we want to subdivide the beat, recognize the rest, and be able to continue 4s no matter what. Okay, I'll count to 4 and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, and 1 and 2.
Rest, rest, rest.
2, 3,
and 1 and 2. Rest, rest, rest.
2 and 3,
4. Rest. 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 3 and 1,
2, 3,
4 and rest. 2, 3 and 1 and 2. Rest, rest. And 2 and 3 and 4. Rest, rest. And 2 and 3. Rest, rest. And 1 and rest. 3 and rest. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 3 and rest. And 2 and 4 and 1.
Okay, the band directors got that part down, don't they? Y'all do that a lot with your bands? Do you make them conduct?
Every day. We
Some do
count,
well, usually they have their
instruments. We count, but not conducting.
account. No, I'll have them probably have them clap with clap rhythms too, because you can hear for the ones that maybe don't talk out loud or whatever you hear.
Clap.
Yeah, yeah.
Those that talk real slow.
And bayonet, that's what they do.
Okay, let's turn the page to the 2-part drills, and let's clap in 2 parts. I will be with these 2, and y'all will be with these 3. So, we'll be the top part, of course. Do y'all have a 2-4 drill that goes tap, 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 the top part?
Oh,
Got it.
it's the previous page.
Yeah, 124 or 1.25 or something like that. Are we ready? I'll count to 2 twice, and then we're just gonna clap.
Go to the bottom.
Okay? Y'all are bottom, we're top. 1, 2, 1, 2. Good. Now, let's tap with our hands, both lines, right hand, top line, left hand, bottom line. Are we ready? A little slower. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Not much of a percussionist.
Okay. Now, let's clap the bottom and count the top. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. What's that? All right. Very good. We're moving on.
Lost.
First one. I get.
That's really all the sightseeing I wanna do today. We're gonna leave the books in here, it was kind of a lot to carry around. We didn't actually get to any sightseeing today. I have a problem a little bit with all of my teaching in that I don't enjoy teaching rhythm. So there's a whole chapter in most textbooks on rhythm, and I'm like, how did you get to college? You can't count, it just blows my mind. So I'm trying to do better about that. Now, I am going to refer to my own book briefly. This is probably the most popular text in the U.S. It's called Tonal Harmony with an Introduction to 20th Century Music, and it's by Kostka and Payne, and lately they've added Alman to the list. Most popular text in the country. I have my students buy it. There's also a workbook. I no longer have the students buy the workbook. I have many, many worksheets on my own. I think you could use this as a high school text. The problem with college students and high school students, they don't read very much except in 140 characters. So I used a different book at Alabama, which was a lot harder to read. It was a lot more theoretical in the theory. This is kind of a compromise. We also used Bruce Benward's book. When I first got here, I forgot who we used. I never even referred to that book, I don't think. Then we used the Benward text because Dr. Wood had taught it at his previous institution, and the text didn't matter that much to me. But when Dr. Wood stopped teaching theory and I had a chance to have the whole program for myself, I went with Tonal Harmony. Thought it was a pretty good compromise between very hard and very easy.
The Benward you're talking about, is that the music and theory and practice?
I think so.
That's what I used at University of Mobile.
Right. It's okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to look at our table of contents and part 1 is called Fundamentals, and chapter 1 is called Elements of Pitch. So let's see, just using the table of contents, what we've covered already. The keyboard and octave registers. Okay, the keyboard, the piano keyboard has 88 notes. The lowest C on the piano is called C1. And then the 3 notes below that are B0, B flat 0, and A0. All right. I don't know why we changed the way we named notes, but at some point we did. That used to be called subcontra and all of that stuff. We don't use that anymore.
So if the piano's a Bosendorfer, what do you do when you get on those?
It's still zeros.
So this is just an
It just
extra
goes
octave
down
of
to
zeros?
half.
Okay.
It doesn't go a whole lot.
Okay.
It just goes down to half. I have played those. FSU has a Bösendorfer that I've played on several occasions, until they, called the security. Just kidding. I was even on the program. Okay, so it's C1, C2, C3, C4 is middle C. Okay? C5, C6, C7, C8, I believe is the top note of the piano. Let me just review that briefly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Highest note on the piano is C8. I like to use those octave designations, and then I can just sit in my chair and say, okay, the bass will be C3, the tenor is C4, and then the alto is E4, and the soprano is G4. And then they have to figure that out, which is okay. Do we understand the keyboard and the octave designations? The most important part of the keyboard is the white notes, E to F and B to C. That's what confuses our intervals. Now, something I didn't mention yesterday, we'll mention today. Notation on the staff. I think we can do that. Lines and spaces and ledger lines. We discussed the ACE principles of the ledger lines. Now, the major scale. Now, in this book, it introduces the major scales by talking about half steps and whole steps. So before you discuss intervals in toto or in total, you want to talk about half steps and whole steps and to build the major scale from there. Okay, just using the half steps and whole steps. We did that yesterday. Then, to use the keyboard and the sharps and the flats and stuff like that. So the next thing we do is say, okay, say we're not beginning on a C, since that's all white notes, let's move it to a D. So if I go a whole step from D, it moves to E. If I go a whole step from E, it's not to F, but to F sharp. And then conveniently the half step to G. So at that point, we introduce the concept of sharps and flats, double flats and double sharps. At the same time, we want them to understand that notes on the piano and notes on manuscript are different in a way. It's been a long time since F sharp and G flat were different notes. It's been hundreds of years. Okay? So it doesn't matter, in theory, it doesn't matter what the note sounds like. It matters how we write it and how it fits in with the major scale. Okay, so that brings us to the major key signatures. Now, y'all dealing with young people more, depending on your band, you may or may not get through too many key signatures. So just because a freshman, or if you're teaching a sophomore in high school or something, just because they may know that two flats means you play a B flat and an E flat, they may not relate it to what a key signature is. Now, here is the thing about teaching. When the note is F sharp, even if you're in a key, like the key of D, you must make the student say F sharp, not F. And you correct them harshly every time, and maybe some kind of physical punishment. That's up to you. So,
If only.
Stupid cameras.
all right. So we'll begin with just a treble clef. Now, we have our C major scale, and you notice when I'm talking in abstract, I don't use stems. Okay? If I do use stems, I use them according to melodic principles. And that is, this stem can go up or down, but that stem goes down and that stem goes up. And they go about an octave. Those don't. I don't want to think about rhythm and melody here at the same time, so I'm just stemlessly my notes. So we have our whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. All right. From there, we think, well, how could we build a scale that would just have one sharp? Well, we know it to be G, right? And every sharp that you add is going to be the 7th scale degree. It is going to be the leading tone. So if I change my one sharp, that's where that sharp is. I'll go ahead and do a grand staff. Get the kids doing grand staff. Now, the next thing, we always go this center of this sharp sign. It's going slightly lower left to upper right, but the center is the space, or the line is bisecting the center. Now, it always goes in its circle of fifths. Dun, ga-dun, ga-dun. The other thing is, even if the student has the right number of sharps, if they're in the wrong direction, you have to count it wrong. And it's best the first 4 weeks of school to count as much wrong as possible. In college, anyway, we do a lot of things to encourage the students to stay in the class. We have freshman seminar, we have tutors, we go really slowly, we have software programs that go over the exact same thing that the worksheets are doing, and it's kind of a bulk operation. You do stuff in bulk. You have to have a real commitment to getting the work back to the students, or it's meaningless. Okay. So if I wrote this, I know that I don't know anything. That's a sure tell. Now here's the thing. The students go, well, how do I know? And you tell them, look at a published piece of music, or look at a piece of music. If you don't know how to make your notation, look at some music. Okay? All right, so there we have 3. Now we have 4, and you'll notice it's lower left, upper right, lower left, upper right. So the next thing, it doesn't quite follow that. Oops. Does that look right? Okay, it has to look like that. Okay, don't accept anything else. now we're learning stuff, and they don't really know why that stuff is, okay? Why is there a key signature? Well, so that you don't have to write the accidental over and over. And in tonal music, the tonic is a priori. So now, we want them to write scales using accidentals as much as possible without the key signature, and then we want them to write key signatures on the grand staff. I don't know whether I want to make copies of all of this, but I would be willing to send you the PDF of these 63 first semester freshman theory worksheets, okay? And we'll do some of them. I'm gonna describe it and then let's just pass it around in a loop. And they're not necessarily in order, okay? They are kind of though. So you see my first worksheet is identifying intervals, writing scales using accidentals, and writing key signatures on the grand staff, okay? The second worksheet is the same. The third worksheet is this massive intervals and triads. It goes on for 2 pages. Worksheet 4. Take a look at worksheet 4. Worksheet 5 deals with each of the following pairs of notes forms either a diatonic semitone, chromatic semitone, or a whole tone. Identify each using the abbreviations DST, CST, or WT. Be sure and observe the clef. Okay, and then there's another one where you have to write a DST, CST, or WT. And then we have more scales using accidentals. Then we have a whole sheet of identify the intervals, circle all dissonant intervals, and you'll notice that the very first thing that I wrote was a P4 that is circled. Okay. Also on this worksheet 5, I've made a key that okay, I'm going to do worksheet 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, are all scales and intervals, okay?
They're back in order. Are you okay with taking a potty break sometime soon?
Let's stop now till 10:45, okay? And we'll
The old guy's gotta go.
10:45.
Thank you.
Do whatever you
Hey,
gotta do.
I've gone an hour and a half, that's a long time.